Alright, hey, what's up YouTube? Today I'm going to make a little review of my bike. It's a 2007 Kawasaki Versys 650. It's probably my favorite bike that I've had so far. I've had a couple bikes. This is probably the most road-oriented motorcycle that I've owned. I really like this bike because, first of all, the seating position. You're sitting really nice and straight, sort of like on those adventure touring bikes. A lot of people would think of those BMW models, the GS Adventures and all that. You can stand up really easily on this model and ride comfortably standing. So if we kind of go from the front of the bike and work our way back, first thing that kind of hits you is, yes, the headlight. When I first saw this model, I really liked the model, then of course I saw the headlight and I thought it was the ugliest thing I've ever seen. I've grown to get used to it and I don't find it that bad anymore. It does a pretty good job at lighting up the road. You get a pretty wide vision of lighting with it, so that's not a bad thing. The bike sits on two 17-inch wheels, so sort of like supermoto size wheels, so makes for a fun bike around the city. It's not too big, but it's still very maneuverable. And it's also really comfortable on the highway. I took this bike from Montreal to the tip of the Florida Keys, which is probably the longest ride I did on it, and very comfortable. I think any bike after a certain amount of hours, the seat's gonna feel a bit hard, but this one's not too bad. So the engine on this bike is a 650cc parallel twin. Puts out on paper 64 horsepower and like 61 Newton meters torque, whatever. It's got a 6-speed transmission, and the thing that's cool about these like 2 cylinders as opposed to 4s, the power is like set like pretty even throughout it. Like, I mean, a lot of those 4-cylinder bikes, all the power is really up high. This bike, as of like 4,000, you have pretty good acceleration. Goes up until like, I don't know, 9.5, 10,000. Probably 9,000 is about the highest you want to really take it. Alright, so if we come and take a closer look at the dashboard, it's got pretty much all the basic features that you would need on a motorcycle. You've got a gas gauge, obviously, which not all bikes surprisingly have today. So it's separated into 1/6 of a tank each bar, so I'm going to need some gas soon. You have a clock, which is very nice, odometer, and 2 trip meters. It would be nice to have an outdoor temperature or an engine temperature, but that's not really essential. You got neutral light and turn signal and high beam and engine nonsense, all the regular stuff. Turn signals appear up here. The bike has hazard button, which not all bikes do, and I honestly think it's nice to have. You can say thank you to cars who move over and let you pass, and you can also put on your hazards when you're stopped somewhere. The only other thing that this bike has that not all bikes has is a passing button to flash your high beams. It's nice to have also. Besides that, it's just regular nonsense. Kill switch, turn signals, horn. I've got a 12-volt socket over here, which was added on, fits quite well right here in the fairing. The windscreen on this bike is small. It's definitely better than any naked bike. It definitely helps. It's sort of adjustable. It's set on the highest right now. I don't know why you'd want to have it any lower. They sell a bigger windscreen, which I had. This is actually my second Versys. My first one got totaled a day after I installed the new windscreen, so I never was really able to test it out. Besides that, for modifications on the bike, I have the highway foot pegs, because I do like to do a bit of traveling sometimes, and that just makes it a lot more comfortable to be able to change your feet position. I got those for about 120 bucks or something off some website. I can't remember. I think it may have been SW Motec or some, like, not quite sure. Also, I have foot peg lowering kits. I think it lowers it by like 2 inches maybe. The guy who sold me the bike had them, so I just threw it on. For sure helps a little bit to keep your legs less bent. I've got the Monokey GV hard cases with racks. I find they make the bike look kind of nice, and it's super useful to have the saddlebags, obviously. They sell a rear mudguard extender, or kind of a bigger one. It's like 100 or 200 bucks. So I kind of just cut a piece of a dirt bike mudguard front fender and drilled into the swing arm and tapped it, screwed it on there. And the front, I kind of did the same out of another piece of an air box from an old bike. Just screwed that on just to keep a little bit extra water off of the pipes and everything. In terms of maintenance for the motorcycle, it's a really low maintenance bike. It's not like any of these high performance KTMs or whatever you want. Basically just, I mean, change the oil every 5,000 kilometers and air filter, clean it. I mean, regular wear on it, right? There is actually one issue with the catch can, which I modified. Often after a ride, I'll notice that there'll be a couple drops of antifreeze on the ground. And basically what it is you've got your catch can over here, and just at the top there's the little hose, you know, for it to breathe. And what tends to happen, I did a little research on the net, and what tends to happen with this model is that vapors and humidity from the antifreeze accumulates up at the top, and they accumulate right in the top of the hose, and then they just, once the bike cools down, they just flow down and you lose a couple drops. So at the end of a season, you'll maybe notice that you'll be missing a bit of antifreeze. What I did for that is you just take the hose and you just pass it up higher over something and then back down, so that those little bit of drops with the heat expansion, they'll get pushed up, but they're not getting pushed up over the curve of the hose, so they flow back into your coolant tank. Another thing that I read up and I modified on the bike, which really actually makes a noticeable difference, is right here. I'm trying to kind of point it with my finger, that hose right there. It's basically in between the two intakes. You just put a little hose and link the two intakes together, and it makes for a lot smoother riding at low RPMs. And I mean, in second gear you could ride around at really low speeds, and it's a lot smoother than without that mod, and it's really inexpensive. The fuel tank on this bike has about 18 liters of fuel capacity, like about 18, I'm not sure exactly. Average, I mean, in the city it's obviously less, but if you're doing like highway a lot, if you're doing a trip, you get about 320 kilometers out of a tank. So one thing I also did want to mention is the fork seals for this bike. Like I said, this is my second Versys. My first one, I changed the fork seals and I put aftermarket seals on it, and they worked, they held up. This bike, my fork seals started leaking at the beginning of the season, and I changed them 2 times for aftermarket seals, and they held up about a week, and then they started leaking again. So I finally went with original ones and no problem. So I'm basically never going to put aftermarket seals on any bike anymore for the fork seals. So I'll go ahead and start it up for you guys.